It's Paul Marsh, and I'm delighted to say that I've been joined by former Premier League referee Mike Dean. Mike, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. A bit better than you by the sounds, but you can't get your teeth in, can you?
I got there eventually. Yeah, it's the pressure. Do you know what? I only ever got sent off once in my career, and it's the pressure of interviewing a referee. It's already got me sweating.
Well, I sent off more than one, trust me.
You
So,
certainly did, yeah. You're coming down this way in January. You're going to be at AFC Portsmouth on Friday, the 24th. It is going to be a gentleman's evening with. You're going to be taking questions from members of the audience. I think that is always a little bit interesting, isn't it?
yeah, it is. But I mean, I think that I've done quite a few. But I quite like doing a Q&A, and I think most of the people would rather ask questions than listen to any kind of rubbish that you're going to talk, because anyone can talk about what's gone on in the game, and half the stories that people say are not even their stories, you just pick them off other people. So I'm quite open with the Q&As. I'll answer anything that anybody asks, obviously within reason. Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
you get one or two silly questions. We get one or two good questions, really, and some people sometimes are a bit scared to ask the first question, but it's easy sometimes just put it on a card, and then whoever's going to compare them out, just pick a few good ones, and some of the questions we won't even answer, to be fair, because some of them are just silly questions, really. But you get some good ones, then it kind of just goes on from there. Really, people just like put their hands up and just go, we just ask as many questions as you want within reason. So it should be good. Should be a good evening.
Do you ever get a question come from the audience where you think to yourself, like, that's a really good question? Obviously, you're interviewed all the time by people such as myself and TV and what have you. You get interviewed a lot, but do you ever get a normal member of the audience ask you a question? You go, that should have been in a TV interview somewhere.
Yeah, well, so I mean, some of you get the usual questions people ask, but people just say like, "What happens behind the scenes?" What the dressing room's like, what happened pre-match with managers and captains and things, and people don't usually ask that kind of question because it's usually like the usual stuff: worst player, worst manager, best player, best stadium, that kind of stuff. So, people you get on with in football. So, you get some good questions. Sometimes you get some knowledgeable people there who wanna ask some good questions, want to listen, whereas you get the odd one now and again that just doesn't really listen. They just go there just to take the mickey, really, which is all part and parcel of it, I guess.
Please tell me that you take yellow and red cards with you, and if the audience member steps out of line, they get a yellow and then a red.
I used to, but it's a bit corny, isn't it? So I've kind of stopped doing it recently. So but I might pop them in the wallet this week. I might pop them
You
in the
you
wallet. They
might
come out in
need them.
January.
You might
Yeah,
need them.
I might do down there.
Right. Obviously, we are based down in Portsmouth, so let's have a little bit of a chat about that. Have you got any particular memories of Portsmouth, or in particular Fratton Park?
Well, I mean, obviously the biggest memory for me is I left them in the FA Cup final in 2008, didn't I? So
Yeah.
probably the biggest day they've ever had within reason. Obviously getting the Premier League is obviously a big step as well. Winning the FA Cup, and probably an unfancied team. Well, both teams were unfancied that year to get to the final, but obviously both got there. And yeah, it was good. It's good for the town, good for the city, and I mean, they've got a great set of supporters, haven't they? And they just, well, it's easy for me to say being up north, but they need a bigger stadium, don't they? They can fill it probably double the amount of
Yeah.
people that's in there. But
Yeah.
again, I know it's all finances, money, etc., etc. And they have done a lot with the ground since I was there. I've only seen a few pictures on TV since I last refereed down there, and the main stands come on a lot better, and behind the goals are a lot better. There's covered terrace, there's covered seating now as well, which was obviously when I was there, the forum was like open terracing when I first came. So, it's definitely moved on. Just needs a bigger stadium of 30 plus thousand, because full well, it doesn't matter whatever league they're in, they're always going to fill it. You've only got to look at like with no disrespect to Plymouth. Plymouth in the same kind of position as you. They got they've um, renovated the stadium. When I was there 10 or 15 years ago, I wouldn't say it was run, well, it was a little run down, to be fair, but obviously they've got a bit of investment. They built one every week now. They're getting 16, 17,000 every week, and you do need a better stadium to get more people in. And I'm sure one day it will come, fingers crossed. I don't know what the plans are down there, but I'm guessing they must have someone in the pipeline with a bit of luck. They just need to stay in the championship, though. That's a big thing. They need to stay in the championship and push on a bit better than what they're doing this season, because I honestly thought they'd start off really well this year and push on from last year's promotion, but it hasn't really kicked into place at the moment, has it? But there's always time. We've only played 10 games of the season, but it also depends how patient certain chairmen are within stadiums and people. And
Yeah.
you've only got to see what's happened this morning with Coventry City, haven't you?
Yes.
They get the player final last year that they're literally 30 seconds away, or should I say, a kneecap from going into the Premier League. For VAR rules that out, and look what happens to the manager 10 games in. It's a cutthroat business, but I'd like to think that they give him some time, the manager, because he's done well getting from where they were when he took over, and and give it a bit of faith. And they obviously give him some backing as well. So I think Scott he'll turn it around. I'm sure he will.
Well, he's not long signed a new contract, so you would assume that that indicates that there is back in there from the board. And I was funny enough, I was only talking to somebody this morning about this, saying that when they won the league last year, they didn't exactly blow everybody away. They won lots of games, but it was quite often by a single goal or maybe two goals. But they didn't really blow anybody away. They won the league quite comfortably, and I think they have invested. It's not fully paid off so far this year, but I think that they need to get to January and still be within touch and distance of getting out of that relegation zone. If they can do that and then bring in a few new faces in January, they might have half a chance.
Yeah, I think they will bring in some new faces. Obviously, the manager would have probably had a look at it in the first half of the season, thought himself, well, some of these players got me out of League One, but maybe the step up from League One to Championship might just be a bit too much for them. Which does that with certain players. It happens throughout, throughout football. You get promoted in the Championship, and you think I can make it in the Premier League, and all of a sudden, probably the Championship's probably just about your level because you've got to be of a certain mindset and a certain stature. Same with coaches and managers. Some managers can get out of the Championship, get to the Premier League, think, right, we've made it, we've cracked it. And you don't realise how hard it is. So sometimes some peaks of managers are usually Championship players can be the same. You just get the odd one now and again who just lights the world up and just goes flying and just goes right to the top, which you don't get many nowadays, unfortunately.
Going back to that Pompey FA Cup winning team of 2008, obviously under Harry Redknapp, and obviously spent time in the Premier League, which you would have ref them a fair bit. Was there a particular player in that side that you thought, oh, he's going to keep me busy today?
Well, I think everybody keeps you busy, don't they? I just think they just had such a good side around that time because
Yeah.
every single they had. It's a bit like the Premier League now, joking about that. They probably had two or three players for each position. They were paying them a lot of money. They done really well. They stayed in the Premier League for probably longer than I probably thought they would. To be fair, but they did. They invested well. And they kind of kicked on a little bit. Obviously, one or two things that happened within the club that obviously I'm not privy to. I'm sure you'll know more than what I do. But it kind of went a little bit pear shaped after that, and it kind of like went down a bit. And sometimes I know it sounds old, but sometimes you've got to go down to build yourself back up again. You've seen that many teams, even your local rivals. God forbid me to say Southampton on your radio station, but even for them, even when they were playing Tranmere not too long ago, and
Yeah.
Portsmouth were like in League Two, and sometimes you have got to take a step down to think, right, what's going on? How can we start again? We've got to rebuild again. And both teams are rebuilding. Obviously, Southampton now in the Premier League, and obviously Portsmouth, want to try and stay in the Championship. So sometimes you have got to take a step back. And then build again and start afresh. And obviously it works sometimes. Sometimes it does work, sometimes it doesn't work. But majority of the time it does work.
Moving on from Portsmouth, let's talk about your current day job, obviously working for Sky Sports. How is it being on the other side of it?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, obviously I finished refereeing in 2022. Got to do a bit of VAR. Tried that for 6 months. Wasn't really my cup of tea, to be fair. I couldn't really get my head around of doing it and not
Well,
being involved with refereeing.
if I can interrupt for 2 seconds, your style of refereeing, you have bags of personality. And obviously with VAR, that's literally all the personality taken out because it's down to the fine point. So I can understand why it wasn't your thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the last year when I was refereeing in 21-22 season, I was doing refereeing, VAR, ball officials. So you're kind of still involved. So without sounding daft, if you were refereeing on a Saturday and VAR on a Sunday, you knew what a bad tackle was, if you know what I'm saying. So, but then when you just stuck in an office every week, just watching a game, you kind of miss the feel of what's going on the stage. You miss the temperature of the game, what it's like, and I think I said before, even on Sky, that I think that I don't think I'd be able to not be able to referee. That's probably the wrong word. I wouldn't enjoy as much as I
Yes.
used to because I used to love refereeing. I used to love the job. And there's nothing better than walking out at 3 o'clock. You have the best seats in the house, and you're basically getting paid for your hobby, which is what my hobby was when I first started doing. I was getting paid as a full time job from 2000. So but I don't think I'd enjoy it anymore. And I even say sometimes that I still know majority of refs on the Premier League, and even watching them sometimes it comes across if they don't really look as if they're enjoying it, where that's just like pressure from outside, pressure from making decisions, pressure from VAR, trying to get things right. There's more scrutiny now than what there ever has been within the media. Obviously, with when you're refereed on the pitch, when you're VAR, and like why should you get sent to the screen for that? Why has he been sent to the screen for that? So there's a lot more pressure on now than what there was even when I finished from 2 years ago. So again, it'll just keep moving and evolving, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very tough job. I know there are people there. Somebody has to do it, but it is a tough job, and I
Yeah, I mean,
agree.
I know, we've heard like some of the championship saying, "Oh, they don't want it in the championship," but I think in the long run, I wouldn't be surprised if it's in next year or the year after because they need, it won't be the full on. There's like a lighter version they use it in Scotland. We used it when we first started in the Premier League 6 7 years ago. Um, but I think you need certain things. There's a few instances I've seen over the week, like the handball at Preston last weekend, which he gets, he punches past the goalkeeper, and you can't have that in a game of football. You can't have that in a game of football. That's got to be, there's one or two other things that have gone on this season in the Championship, whereas as much as clubs don't want it, the longer run is you don't have it all season, but the clubs want it in for the player final, which I find astounding. So, where they'll have it in this year, I don't know. But sometimes you need it in the bigger games. But I think in the long run, if you get enough officials to actually man it, I think they will get it. And I think it's only better for the game. If you look at what the championship's like, there's more people watching the championship than watches probably the French league and the Spanish second division and the German second division. Is probably one of the biggest leagues in Europe
Yeah, absolutely.
outside the top tier like Serie A and what I've been in the league. But it's one of the biggest watched second division
Hmm.
leagues within Europe. So I'd be astounded if you don't have it next 2 or 3 years. Astounded.
We spoke earlier about certain players that you thought, oh, I'm in for a job here, and you sort of said, well, that was kind of all of them. Well, let's go the other way. Were there any players that you kind of really got on with well?
What within Portsmouth itself?
No, 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 just in general. If you
Yeah, I
in
mean,
charge of Man United, Chelsea, or whatever, and there was a particular player that you just knew you were going to get on well with.
yeah, and I always used to get on well with John Terry. I've known John for years, but even though he comes across to be target with, but I always get him in with okay. Frank Lampard was okay. It's just more the old elder statesmen who have I kind of started refereeing when they were probably mid 20s, getting into the early 30s, was kind of it's like the pinnacle of their career or the when they're in the prime of the career. So they were always nice to referee, and there's always been good players throughout the years. There's always players every year that always like pop up. Ronaldo when he was playing, he was a nice one to get on. Even like sometimes when you do like the Bergkamp and Thierry Henry, I was looking to be involved with them and Joe Cole and people like that. So even Peter Crouch, he was down at Pompey. I've done a few podcasts with Peter,
Yeah.
and he was just a nice bloke. I think sometimes players don't realise that they're in a privileged position to be what they are playing professional football, and not many make it. And when they do make it, some people never lose what they, how should we say? They don't lose track that they're in a privileged position where some guys make it think, oh, I've made it now. I'm just going to be a bit, I should say, big headed and a bit arrogant about it. So, but some players really do enjoy playing football, and they're the kind of players I used to get on with great.
I always think to myself, but I think something like that is very similar to winning the lottery, for example. I think if you're a really nice person and you win the lottery, it's going to make you an even nicer person. You're going to go and do lovely things for lots of lovely people. But if I'm going to choose my words carefully, if you're not a nice person and you win the lottery, you're probably just going to be a little bit more of a so and so.
And we've seen that already this week in the press time with people who won the lottery and gone a bit pear shaped. So it can affect you in certain ways, but obviously certain ways it doesn't affect people. So as long as you remain level headed, again, you're in a privileged position if you win the lottery, privileged position for your Premier League and Championship football as well.
Let's finish off by hopefully giving some encouragement to some people. What would you say to any young teenage referees who are just starting out in their career now?
Yeah, I mean, I used to even I've said it many times that just don't set your goals too high. It's a bit like a footballer. Obviously, you want a refereeing point of view, but when you first pass your refereeing exam, you're coming at like level 6 or level 7, what it is now. Don't think to yourself, right, in 3 years' time, I want to be a Premier League referee. You just got to get to the next level. Bit like a League One or League Two or non-league player. Your next level, if you're playing if you're playing for Eastleigh, obviously that's your kind of neck of the woods. Your next tip is you want to try and get in League One and League Two. If it works in League One and League Two, you then want to hopefully someone will spot you, because if you're good enough, you will get on. I say that to referees as well. If you're level 5, level 6 referee, the word will get out there within a short space of time that you've got a bit of ability, and before you know it, you'll be on some kind of fast track scheme, or you'll get coached better. And it's happened to referees. I mean, you again use the referee from Munich, because Paul Durkin used to referee in the Premier League. Paul was on for years. His lad James started refereeing, I think 10 years ago. Bit of nouts about him. People realised he could be a good referee, taken after his dad, maybe. I don't know. And all of a sudden, he's on the football league list now. He's refereeing the football league games, and knocking the door for getting a championship game. So if you're good enough, you will get on, but just don't set your goals too high. It's it's just one of them things that, as much as you want to get there as soon as you can, you've got to get a bit of experience and get a bit of know about the game before you know it, before you end up getting so far too soon it comes up to bite you in the backside.
Enjoy it and take it one step at a time. Mike, thank you so much for talking to me. I really do appreciate it. Again, one last time, you are going to be down at AFC Porchester on the 24th of January for a gentleman's evening with yourself. If you are interested in getting yourself some tickets, contact AFC Porchester directly, or they have got a QR code on the posters that we will share on our social media as well. So again, Mike, thank you very much for talking to me. I do greatly appreciate it.
Pleasure, mate. Speak to you soon. Take care.